Ah, Stardew Valley. This is one of the games you can always come back to and cool down while you realize that your life is currently heading directly downhill straight into a pit of fire. But little did I know that this time things would go very different. Because this is not an ordinary Stardew Valley playthrough, no. This is the story of two brothers, namely Clyde Fish and his older twin brother Cletus Fish, who were together after the tragic and unexplained loss of their father, decide to leave their hometown for a change of perspective. So, after deciding for their outfits for the next year or so, Clyde and Cletus get to work chopping away at some of the trees and scouting the area. Now, unsuspectingly, Cletus and Clyde Fish's favorite thing is to fish. Damn, what a stupid name. So naturally, they made sure to get their fishing rods as quickly as possible and started fishing away. After a few days, Cletus scratched his itch to fish and started reflecting on their life. They are now grown-ups that have to handle things on their own. Especially after that, let's call it incident at their parents' house that forced them to leave. He has always been the smarter, more mature one, but things weren't so easy for Clyde. Every time he caught a fish, instinctively he would look around to show it to his brother or father, just as he did when he was still a child. But they were no longer standing beside him, cheering him on. His father was gone, and Cletus had to take care of them. Take care of the farm. He was thankful for that, he really was. But deep down, he felt lonely. A few days would go by like this. He would keep on fishing, trying to make sense of their new situation. He tried to connect to some of the locals, giving them gifts he found on the shore, but that went, not so smoothly. Oh, Abigail. This looks delicious. What do you mean that's so... What? That's a topaz, are you... What? So eventually, he went back to fishing all day, trying to drown out his sorrow by focusing on the tackle bobbing in the water. That is, when he heard about a rumor that supposedly a legendary fish roams the water of the lake at this time of year. And this is where it all made sense to him. You see, if he would catch the legend, especially in the first season he got here, surely everybody would come around and want to look at it, right? He could feel the sensation he felt as a child, the safety of smiling people around him, praising him for his efforts instead of mindlessly arguing with each other. He would make a name for himself and his farm. And most importantly, he would make Cletus, his brother, proud. His brother who would always be by his side, who would cheer him up when their father was being mean, who would take him with him on this journey, and who would, in all this time Clyde has spent fishing, run the farm by himself and carry its burden. But there was one problem. This fish could only be caught in the rain, and it had already rained quite a bit this spring, so there was no telling if it would even begin to rain once more this season. Normally, Clyde does not think this far ahead, but this time, things were different. Would it start to rain? Would he be able to get a chance at taking on the fish? And most importantly, was he even good enough to take on the fish? You see, in Stardew Valley, each fish has a different difficulty to it. For example, the carp, which is fairly easily caught, only has a difficulty of 15, while the flounder already becomes trickier with a difficulty of 50, which seems a lot. But you see, the flounder is also specified to be a sinker, which means his pattern is more or less predictable. It sinks. But here comes the problem. The legendary fish, found in spring, has not only the highest difficulty rating of 110, which for all of you non-players is a big number, but the legend is also specified as a mixed, meaning its catching behavior is random, making it by far the hardest fish to catch in the entire game. So, even if it began to rain, even if the legend would, miraculously, bite the tackle, and even if Clyde is paying attention at that very moment, would he even be able to do it? Only time would tell. On the 20th of spring, the weather report first reported the chance of rain on the next days. Clyde was nervous. He spent the entirety of that day fishing, trying to hone his skills. On the next day, sure enough, it would actually start to rain. Clyde was even more nervous. Cletus, who realized something was up, and that Clyde was going for a big fishing trip this day, made Clyde some trapping bobbers that would lend him a hand if he needed to. So now, the only thing that was left was for Clyde to step up and catch the legend. Contrary to his belief, no one would ever come to visit his home and take a look at the legend. But he did not bother, because he realized that he never needed anyone's attention as long as he could stay at the side of his brother. And as he came back home, he found the farm more beautiful than usual, although nothing had changed. He just now realized the efforts Cletus put in, not only to run the farm, but also to support him fishing the whole day. He didn't need anyone else. A few days had gone by, and eventually the flower dance came by, and Clyde feared the worst. He was always awkward around social events, but he didn't want to let his brother down, so he gave it his all to make a normal appearance, and asked a few people out. Everybody he asked declined. That is, if he was even able to muster the courage to ask them out in the first place. And there he sat, all by himself, with no one to interact to. Again. No, he was not alone. His brother had always been by his side. Why would he not be there now? And sure enough, his brother felt the same way.